British towns are collapsing faster than anyone will admit. Shops are shutting, people are leaving, property values are falling off a cliff. These are 15 UK towns already dying in 2026, and if you own property in one of them, you need to know right now. Number 15. Peterborough. Peterborough has been described as a city caught mid-transition for a decade. That transition has not arrived. The town centre carries empty retail units that have been empty for years, not months. New housing developments continue to be built at the edges, while the core hollows out, creating the visual impression of growth, while the economic foundation remains unstable. Residents with spending power drive to Cambridge or travel to London rather than spend locally. For property owners, the bifurcation matters. New build commuter housing tends to hold value. Town centre and inner residential properties have not recovered their pre-2020 levels in real terms. Number 14. Blyth. Blyth in Northumberland is a coastal and former industrial town that has never found a convincing economic identity after the collapse of its shipbuilding and mining base. The population is declining in real terms. Younger residents leave for Newcastle and further afield, while older residents stay, compressing both their economic activity and the long-term property demand. The high street has a vacancy rate that reflects a local spending base too small to support the retail infrastructure that was built for a larger working population. An offshore wind industry has established a presence nearby, but the skilled jobs that come with it are largely filled by workers who live elsewhere. Property in Blyth is cheap. It is cheap because the fundamentals that drive property value, employment, population growth and amenity point consistently in one direction. Number 13. Rochdale. Rochdale features in the indices of deprivation 2025 among areas of the northwest with the highest concentration of neighbourhoods in the most deprived decile. Income deprivation, employment deprivation and health deprivation overlap in specific wards, in ways that make economic reversal extremely difficult. The town centre has lost anchor retailers, without replacing them with the food and experience economy that has kept places like York viable. Greater Manchester's gravitational pull means residents with spending power go to Manchester, which is rational for individuals, but structurally damaging for local retail. Property prices are low. The question is not whether they are low, but whether they have a floor. Number 12. Grimsby. Grimsby has been declining for longer than most towns on this list, and it shows no credible signs of reversal. The collapse of the fishing industry stripped the town of its economic identity decades ago, and replacement industries have not arrived at the scale or speed required. The Humber Freeport designation has brought occasional announcements of investment, but the employment generated has been insufficient to reverse population loss or revive the high street. Grimsby's vacancy rate for retail units is among the highest in the East Midlands and Yorkshire region. Property is cheap, some of the cheapest in England, and for buyers seeking yield, the rental numbers can look attractive until void periods, maintenance costs on older housing stock, and tenant turnover are factored in. Those buying to hold for capital growth face a market where the underlying population and employment trends work against them. Number 11. Burnley. Burnley is a mill town that lost its mills, and it has not found a replacement economy. The indices of deprivation 2025 place multiple Burnley wards in the worst decile nationally for income and employment. The town centre vacancy rate is structural, not cyclical. It will not recover when consumer confidence returns nationally because the local spending base is simply too constrained. Limited private sector employment and a demographic profile that skews older and lower income create a property market where demand is consistently soft. The town has genuine community identity. It also has a property market that reflects the underlying economics with uncomfortable accuracy. Number 10. Sunderland. Sunderland's industrial base, including shipbuilding, coal and manufacturing, collapsed over 3 decades, and the city is still paying for it. The Nissan plant at Washington has provided employment and some economic anchor, But the 2025 announcements about production shifts and potential reductions have reintroduced the uncertainty into what was the city's most reliable private sector employer. The city centre has a high rate of retail vacancy and a spending pattern that does not support the number of units available. Property in Sunderland is inexpensive. Net migration data shows more people leaving than arriving. The fundamental challenge for property owners is that the buyers who would ordinarily absorb your property when you want to sell, young professionals and growing families, are the people who have been leaving. Number 9. Middlesbrough. Centre for Cities 2025 data places Middlesbrough among the towns with between 2.5 and 2.9 shops per 1,000 residents, far above the sustainable level, meaning the retail vacancy problem is structural, not temporary. The town loses spending to nearby Darlington and to out-of-town retail. The indices of deprivation 2025 identify Middlesbrough as among the worst nationally for health outcomes and income deprivation. The Teesside Freeport has generated investment announcements, but the timeline from announcement to employment to economic impact is measured in years, not months. Property investors who bought on Freeport optimism in 2022 and 2023 have found that the market has not rewarded that optimism yet. Those considering buying now are pricing in a transformation that may come, but has not arrived. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. The towns still to come have seen property values fall in specific areas by figures that will disturb anyone who owns there. And number 1 has the data that every property owner in Northern England needs to understand before making any decision. Stay with us. Number 8. Hull. Hull consistently appears in the worst performing lists across multiple indicators, including retail vacancy, deprivation, health outcomes, and economic growth. The Centre for Cities data shows Hull among the towns where the high street model has failed structurally, not temporarily. The city had the UK City of Culture designation in 2017, which generated genuine optimism and some genuine investment. In 2026, the lasting impact on the underlying economic indicators is modest. The waterfront has improved. The outer residential areas and the town centre beyond the cultural zone remain challenged. Property is cheap. It has been cheap. The gap between cheap and good value depends entirely on whether the indicators that drive long-term price growth, employment, in-migration and amenity improve from their current levels. There is no clear evidence they are improving at the required rate. Number 7. Hartlepool. The indices of deprivation. 2025 identify Hartlepool as among the most severely deprived towns in England for income and employment, not just in the northeast but nationally. The town lost its industrial base and has not replaced it. The high street vacancy rate reflects a local spending base that cannot sustain the retail infrastructure available. A nuclear power station has provided employment for decades, but it is scheduled for decommissioning. The proposed replacement, a new nuclear project in the area, remains at an early planning stage, with no confirmed construction timeline that would generate employment within a property investment horizon. Property is extremely cheap in absolute terms. For investors, the question is not the price, but the demand side. Who is buying, who is moving in, and whether those trends support even modest capital growth. Number 6. Luton. Luton presents a different kind of crisis to the northern towns on this list. It is not cheap. The average house price sits above £280,000, above the national average, with mortgage payments approaching £1,260 per month. And yet net migration is negative by nearly 7,000 people per year, according to the 2026 Stora Moving Trends analysis. That makes it the UK's most actively avoided place to relocate. More people are leaving Luton each year than arriving. The airport provides employment and some economic base, but it also concentrates pollution, noise and traffic in ways that drive residents out, rather than attracting new ones. The high street carries vacancy rates that have not improved meaningfully since 2020. Owners paying above average prices for property in a town that is losing population faster than almost anywhere else in England are holding a combination that the data does not support. Number 5. Stoke-on-Trent. Centre for Cities spending data reveals something specific about Stoke. In Bradford, Stoke and Wigan, just £1 in every 10 spent on the high street goes to food and experience, the category that has kept other towns viable. Stoke's retail offer has hollowed out, its spending power has not recovered, and its spending pattern has not pivoted toward the experiential economy. The Pottery shopping centre has struggled with vacancy. The town centres of Hanley, Longton and Fenton each contain units that have been empty for years. Stoke ranked poorly in PwC and Demos quality of life assessments. Property is inexpensive, and the yields can look attractive. But the vacancy rates in buy-to-let, the cost of maintaining older terrace stock, and the limited pool of professional tenants constrain net returns in ways that gross yield calculations conceal. Number 4. Walsall. PwC and Demos ranked Walsall bottom of their Good Cities Index for quality of life. It was last, out of 50 major UK cities assessed. The analysis cited the second worst high street health in the country, the third worst job market, low average incomes, and difficult healthcare access. Those 4 factors are not independent. They compound each other. Low incomes reduce high street spending. Poor job prospects accelerate out-migration of working-age residents. Healthcare access issues reduce quality of life for those who remain. The Walsall High Street vacancy rate has grown consistently. The property market reflects the underlying economics, prices are low, and the pool of buyers is not growing. For owners of property in Walsall, considering their options, the PwC data deserves direct attention. There is no other major UK city for which the independent assessment is as comprehensively negative. Number 3. Blackpool. Blackpool's vacancy rate of 17.6%, the third worst in the UK, according to Centre for Cities data from 2025, tells one part of the story. The crime rate, 154.4 crimes per 1,000 residents in 2025, tells another. Seasonal employment creates income instability that makes consistent retail spending impossible. The seafront economy and the inland residential economy are essentially separate towns sharing a postcode, and the residential economy has been in structural decline for 2 decades. Property in Blackpool has been the subject of investment pitches promising regeneration for as long as anyone can remember. Some seafront regeneration has occurred. The inner residential areas have seen no equivalent transformation. The indices of deprivation 2025 place significant parts of Blackpool in the most deprived decile nationally for housing quality and health. For property owners away from the waterfront, the data has been consistently discouraging, and 2026 has not changed that. Number 2. Bradford. Bradford has an 18% shop vacancy rate, second worst in the UK, according to Centre for Cities 2025 data. It ranks second worst in the PwC Quality of Life Assessment. It features among the most deprived urban areas in the Indices of Deprivation 2025, with multiple neighbourhoods in the worst decile for income, employment and health. Bradford was the UK City of Culture for 2025, which generated significant attention and some investment. The structural economic problems that drive the vacancy rate, the deprivation measures, and the population outflows predate the cultural designation and are not resolved by it. Bradford's property market is bifurcated, with outer suburban areas that have better transport links to Leeds performing differently to the inner city. Property in inner Bradford is cheap. The question of whether cheap represents value depends entirely on which trend line you believe will dominate over a 5 to 10 year ownership period. Number 1. Newport. Newport in Wales has the highest shop vacancy rate of any town in the United Kingdom. 19% of its high street units now sit empty, according to Centre for Cities' definitive 2025 analysis. Nearly 1 in 5 shops is closed. The town loses almost 5% of its high street spending to Cardiff every single week. Cardiff is close enough to drive to, yet far enough away that the spending leaves Newport's local economy permanently. Newport has 2.5 to 2.9 shops per 1,000 residents, far above the sustainable ratio for its spending base. That means the vacancy problem will not be solved by economic recovery alone. There are simply too many shops for the number of people who can afford to use them. Property in Newport is inexpensive, and some areas of Newport are genuinely functional and livable. But the headline economic indicators, including vacancy rate, outmigration of spending, and spending power of the remaining population, point in one direction. If you own investment property in Newport's commercial or town-adjacent residential areas, the Centre for Cities data from 2025 is the most relevant document you can read. It does not contain good news. These 15 towns are not written off. Communities survive, people adapt, and some of these places will find their footing eventually. But the data available in 2026, from the indices of deprivation, from Centre for Cities, from net migration analysis, and from retail vacancy surveys, points clearly to where the structural pressures are highest. Property ownership is a long-term decision. Make it with the long-term data, not the short-term optimism of someone who needs to sell you something. Subscribe and share this with anyone making a property decision in 2026. The information is public. Most people never look at it. Now you have.